Welcome, everyone, to For Our Success. We are so excited about tonight's show. I am especially excited because I got my homegirl here tonight, and we're going to be talking about the fabulous things that she's doing in research regarding the topic of what we need to know in order to be prepared for the workforce right now and also preparing our children for the 21st century. We've got to really understand what is really going to be needed, and she's going to help us to do that. So, Dr. Angela Reeves, can you say hello to our guests tonight?
Hello, everyone. So good to be here. Oh, wow. So
Yes, of
delighted
course.
that you asked me.
Oh, it was our pleasure. When I heard about the project, I just knew that we had to have you on this show.
Thank
So
you.
we're just excited that it has come to fruition now. And this is the night that it's going to happen, and we're going to share the word.
Yes, I'm
Coach
Wonderful.
Mary is here. Coach Mary, can you say hello and give our
Hey everybody, how are you? I'm so happy to be here. We're here with you once again, and we're happy to have Lucinda back.
Hello. Hi,
yes,
everybody. It's good to be back.
attorney Lucinda Jones is back
Yes,
on
it's good to
set.
be back.
Yeah,
Yes.
she had a little break. She was busy, but anyway, she's back with us, and we're really glad about that. Well, a little introduction about Dr. Angela. She is a graduate of Central Michigan University in sociology and psychology with a minor in social work. And then she went to Michigan State University, where she majored in urban counseling, and then to Wayne State University for her EDD in curriculum and instruction with a minor in counseling. So you can see my girl is well qualified for a whole lot of stuff. But
Yes.
tonight we're going to be talking about her wonderful book and research, because she is predominantly, and she defines herself as a researcher. And her book is entitled Learning and Earning in the 21st Century: What You Need to Know and How About How to Succeed. Is that right, Angie? Did I say
That's
that right?
correct.
Okay. All right then. So she's going to talk about that. But Angie, how did you get into studying this topic in the first place?
Hmm. Well, I was at Mott Community College for a long time.
Yeah, as an administrator.
And yeah, and as an administrator, as a counselor, and as a faculty member. So I had
Okay.
lots of different roles.
Uh-huh.
And as you said, I am a researcher. I like to see what's coming. I like particularly to look at futurists and see what they're predicting. And it was very clear that things were going to be very different in the 21st century. We saw the changes, in the 20th century when we started moving out of a manufacturing industry.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Saw
was
that in
kind of
Flint
a
for sure.
thing. I'm sorry.
I said we saw that in Flint for sure.
Oh, for
It's
sure.
been
We saw that
coming a
all over
long
the
time.
country. We saw
Mhm.
that all over the country.
Yes.
And so that made a huge shift. And then we started seeing the emphasis on technology. And so lots of jobs that people always thought they'd be able to do, it was very clear they would not be able to do.
Hmm.
And so it became very important to me to identify what the new trends were going to be, to
Hmm.
make sure that the people that I worked with, the people that I interacted with, could tell others what those trends would be. So that's how I got started with this.
Okay.
Um, I taught a study skills class, and most of us were very not satisfied with the textbook that we were using. So my colleagues really encouraged me to write a book, and that started it. And this last one was the fourth edition, and that's so that reflected all of the many changes that we had seen to that point. This summer, I'll be working on, where I hope to have completed, the fifth edition, because with the pandemic, there have been so many changes, things that once were for sure aren't anymore. So,
Like, what do you mean?
well,
Example. What
think
you mean?
about think about AI, artificial intelligence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And think about ML, machine learning. So we knew artificial intelligence was around in the early 2000s, but artificial intelligence relied on people to code the machines, right? And tell the machines how to access the data and how to run the data.
Mm-hmm.
Machine learning is different, and that's the new season that we're in.
Mm.
Machine learning means that that machine is teaching itself how to interpret
What?
the data. Yes. See, it's real different. It's very different.
Wow.
It's gone beyond. Artificial intelligence relied on people to do the coding.
Right.
Machine learning, the machine does its own training.
Wow.
So you mean
It
coding
runs
is obsolete already almost?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
deep.
Think about
That
all the
is deep, yeah.
algorithms that have gotten people into trouble, you know, on Facebook and on some of the other, right?
Right.
Those were things that man did, right? Now with the machine learning, they're going to just put those algorithms in there, and the machine's going to keep interpreting it and interpreting it and interpreting it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And of course, the challenge is that the biases that people have, right?
Uh-huh.
You know, it creeps in. So that one of the things that they learned with some of the AI was that there was a built-in bias against women
Mm-hmm.
and against ethnic minorities.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that we all have to be mindful of, right? That's another reason why it is important that we have people who look like us doing a lot of coding and developing a lot of apps. And we are. I mean, there are a lot of young people who are traveling all over the world and developing these apps and selling them for megabucks.
Wow.
Very
Well,
exciting.
you know, the thing is that you said that we're going to get into what those competencies are that you feel like are very imperative for us to have for jobs now as well as the future. But one of the things that you had in when we were talking, you know, I guess you have it in your book too, is that in your research you found that 75% of students do not have these essential skills.
Oh, no. Let me, it's not
Or-
the students.
Okay.
It's the American Managers Association.
Okay. And who were they?
It's the American Managers Association. These are business people, United States business people. Okay.
Wow. So
that run across a broad spectrum of business areas.
So current business people do not have this, 75% of them do not have these skills that you're going to talk about.
Correct. And what the American Managers Association said was these were the 4 essential skills their companies needed in order to be able to survive in the 21st century.
So can I jump in?
They said 75% of them said there was nobody that worked for them that had those skills.
Wow.
Can I jump in here for a moment? So before we go too far, I just wanted to ask, so you're saying that these skills are not just for management, though, even though 75% of them are needing it, this is also women need these, children. I mean, when I mean, not, well, actually our children need to start now, but our young people, we really need to get this new mindset.
Right.
Right. So
absolutely.
So
think about it.
Because I heard you say minorities a moment ago. I heard you say, you know, talk about, you know,
machine learning,
minorities, that we need to kind of shift, you know, because it used to be, well, become a doctor, be a lawyer, you know, let's do IT, you know, let's do, you know, like you said, coding. So now it's like, we've got to really learn. How do we learn these things?
That's a good question.
How do we learn what we need? You know, your book helps us and it introduces. You being here today is critical for us, because if we have, you know, what do they say? Ignorance is no excuse. If we just don't know, you know, we get our children trying to be something else, or when, you know, women are going back to school. We're going back to school, women and men. We're going back to school as older, trying to get new degrees, figure, hey, I'll just take IT. That way I'll be ahead of the game. But from what you're saying, no, not necessarily so.
Don't get me wrong. There's going to need to be repairs on these machines, okay? Somebody's always got to be able to fix them, okay?
But before we get too far off, Angie, there are a couple of things I wanted to say. First of all, we want to remind our audience that they can put comments or questions that they have in the chat, and we will have some time to address those questions, because this information is so vital. And I know people, and it's kind of new mindset, like we said. So people are going to have some questions. I'm sure some of us do. But first of all, let's talk about those 4 competencies that we really need to focus in on for current jobs, as well as for the 21st, you know, the rest
Sure.
of the 21st century. What are those core?
Okay, so can I do a screen share so that I can take you through them?
Sure,
Oh,
sure.
yeah.
Let me.
And that way, maybe.
One moment.
Okay.
There you
go. Okay, am I good? Yes. Okay.
There we go.
So here they are. Okay, get this moved over a little bit, so you can actually see it. I don't know why that's. Anyway, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. So what I did was I looked at 2 different groups. The United States, again, the American Managers Association is the one that that really highlighted these 4. Now, there's been a lot of conversation since the beginning of the 2000s, right, the 21st century. But these are kind of very common. But the international community also has what they call 7 essentials. So what I've done here is I combined the 2 of them together. Critical thinking and problem solving. And what that involves is research, analysis, synthesis, project management. So what are we really talking about? A different way of examining problems. You know, when we were kids, we grew up with the who, what, where, when, why, and how. And those questions form the foundation for getting at an understanding of a problem. The research piece means that you really have to do some examination and not just take it for truth, right? That you're able to look at what you see and really check it out and ask questions about it, right? The analysis is what you're really doing with that. You're really verifying that what you say, for example, I don't want to get too much in the weeds here, but you know, if you're looking at a piece of research and it says something that is totally off the wall, like an actual piece that I saw, displaced homemakers really don't like going to college. What? Doesn't even make any sense. Does that make sense? Doesn't make sense, right? So then I check back behind it and I find out that the sample that they used, the people that they researched, were women who lived in the rural area of Wisconsin who had no transportation to get to any college because there wasn't any college nearby. Does that make sense? Are you guys following me?
Yeah.
So it is looking at the research, but then asking yourself questions about it, because it's all not good and it's all not valid, right? Project management is a biggie for organizations, because that means, can you bring this project to completion in a timely manner? Are you able to organize all of the pieces that go along with it, right? Is that making sense? You guys stop me if I am not.
Well, you're fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and so I'm going to talk about critical thinking on the last slide. I only have 3 slides, so folks don't need to be getting nervous here. The creativity and innovation is really all about making a better mousetrap, right? It is, how can we do something better? How can we make things work better? How can we make them work cheaper? How can we make them be more effective? And innovation is really identifying new solutions to old problems.
Mhm.
New knowledge creation is we're really looking at what I'm doing here, right? Putting together existing pieces of knowledge to make a whole new sense of the knowledge, to make it where people can understand it. Anyone can understand it. Best fit design and solutions, that's really all about, again, these different approaches to address needs and wants that people have. The artful storytelling is something that I really think is unique to us.
Very, yeah.
As a people. We can tell a story. We can make it come alive. And when we do that, that helps other people understand. We do that better than probably most folks. When we start looking at collaboration, teamwork, and leadership, the way that we work is different today. It has to be different. So those old titles, those old supervisor, subordinate, all of that doesn't work so well anymore. Because what you need are people who know the information about whatever the issue is. So teamwork is going to be led by the person who knows the most about the topic, not by the director or the supervisor, as in times past. It's the subject matter expert. Is that making sense?
Yeah, so if you are in a position of leadership, it behooves you to make a community and consult those in the community that have that information before you make any kind of decision, and that let it be.
Oh, absolutely. The Chinese have a wonderful saying: consult everyone, even the knees.
Even the what?
Knees.
Oh.
And your knees, you don't think about your knees until they start hurting. So it's the folks that you don't ever think. It's the grounds people. It's the maintenance people.
That's
the
right.
janitors. It's all of the folks that are essential, because you can't do anything without your knees, right? The essential to the well-being of the organization, but you don't pay any attention to them. And so collaboration takes on a whole new appearance. Compromise, cooperation, consensus, and community building. So you don't have the top dog and the low man on the totem pole, because that's not good for building a community. Workplaces have to be places of community. It takes everyone to solve a problem. And the communication and media fluency, crafting and analyzing messages and using media effectively. This is where young people are going to absolutely thrive, because they know social media.
Yeah.
They know social media, and they stay up on top of all of the new forms, right? Clubhouse, TikTok, all of that, right? It changes, and they are very good at keeping up with the changes. They like keeping up with the changes, and that's exactly what companies and organizations need.
Right.
Because, well, they need that. Because
I want to jump in I'm sorry. I just want to jump in just a moment, because we had a couple of comments that I wanted to bring to your attention. Gabrielle is asking what degrees will focus on those 4 competencies. That's one of the things that she wants to know. And also, I see that Dr. Tim Miller joined, and he said that, he actually teaches these competencies at La Loyola Marymount University. And so that kind of goes along with what Gabby said. Okay, yes, these are taught and we need these competencies, but what degrees are we looking at when we, when you want to implement this?
Okay. I'm glad Dr. Tim is teaching these competencies. Today's employee will need certifications. Okay. They will not necessarily need a degree.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Amazing.
What they need is the information, the knowledge, and the skill. Mm-hmm. And they also need to be about the business of staying current. Mm-hmm. And so it's not about the degree, it's about what you know and what you can do.
And Angie, the other thing is that a lot of people may not even be graduates of a school, where they may be entrepreneurs, but they still need skills, so it doesn't matter where you are so far as degrees and all of that. That's not the important. The thing is that you have the skills. Am I right about that?
You're absolutely correct.
Okay.
And that's the other piece. We all were raised to go to college and get a job. And if we look back, back in the day, we were always self-employed. And we're not so much anymore.
What do you mean we were always self-employed?
Well, we were always self-employed. I mean, there were businesses, Black-owned businesses that we frequented. The dollar turned over 2, 3, 5, 7 times in the Black community.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And now our dollar goes out of our communities. Mm-hmm. And so I think that, we grew up thinking about getting a job, right? And yet what we're doing now is there may not be enough jobs out there. Mm-hmm. We have to do what we think is important and needful for us.
Right.
Yeah. This is
do you have any other questions? Was there another question?
That was actually the only 2 comments at this point, but I do have a comment. I was thinking with this pandemic, mm-hmm. when I look at those 4 competencies, and let's see, I'll put them back up here. And I'm looking at this was so needed during this pandemic, right? At home, they had to come up really quick, innovative thinking, mm-hmm. real critical thinking right now, how we're going to do this. So I really wanted to talk about how some of these competencies are utilized in our everyday life and what we're going through. Like I said, creativity. They had to come up with a lot of innovative ways to bring people on board, to keep people engaged. This last year, every last one of these competencies was needed. Media, communication, when we talk about the internet, more people Zoomed, more people used the internet ever. Collaborative teamwork. People had team meetings, and it's just a number of things that took place, but they all involve these 4 competencies. So whether you were at home or whether you were out, one of the frontline workers, or in one of these corporations trying to figure out, and we know now that it's not top bottom anymore. It's not the execs, and like you said before, it's team effort, teamwork.
Yes, it is.
And so every last one of these competencies was in our life, has touched us over the last year. And it's not as, some people think I'm just kind of overwhelmed because, gosh, this is not as simple as being a CNA, or this is not as simple as just being a, physician assistant, when there used to just be doctors, now there's physician assistants. Now nurse practitioners have to, so different things are changing.
Okay.
And when you look at this, it looks so technical, but when you really just look at critical thinking, let's think outside of the box. Let's think this through. Can we take each one when you get a moment? Just take each one for our folks at home who are watching the show to be able to really kind of walk through this in their life and see how it's shown up. Just
what are you saying, Mary?
Huh?
What are you asking her to do?
Well, I'm saying, for instance, critical thinking. What would that look like? What would each one of these look like? We've seen them over the last year. We've seen them. But what if a person's at home right now and really like Gabrielle's like, what degree? Okay, so where do I get this knowledge? How do I find critical thinking and problem solving? Is there a degree to teach that? But you do it every day.
Yeah.
That's it.
And especially young people. When I see these 4 competencies, I see young people because they are critical thinkers, they're problem solving. Now, it might not be channeled in the way that, it should be, but because they have the energy, they have the bravery, I just see these 4 competencies being filled by these young people. I do.
And think, you're absolutely right, Lucinda. And think about the parents who have been literally pulling their hair out, right? Trying to teach their children. You're talking about some serious problem solving, because that's what they had to do, right? And the same thing is, talk about creativity and innovation. When, the money kind of dried up, as it did for a lot of people, had to come up with some other options.
Absolutely.
Had to think outside of the box.
Yeah. And young people do that.
Food on the table, keep the lights on, keep the heat on in the winter. Okay?
And don't young people think outside the box? They do it every day, don't they?
Well, I think old folk, wait a minute. These are the old folk do too.
That's right. No, they do. But I said that to make a point. You have a lot of young people. I call them, what's the term I use? I can't even think of it right now. But a lot of young people, some of them have, troubles, they have problems. But if someone could get their attention and bring this to their attention, so I'm talking about those at risk is the term that I use. Right. At risk. Man, this is just.
Well, Lucinda, I'm glad you said that, because you know that my business Motivity Coaching is moving into working with at-risk young adults. Actually, they're from anywhere from 18 to 24, 25 and up. And so I was talking to Dr. Reeves and said, hey, this is something that definitely I really want to introduce them to. I want to go into this in depth, help them be able to be critical thinkers, critical learners, help them to be able to be creative and innovative and, collaborative team workers and, in communication and media, because it's so critical. I really, that is something they do need it, but older people need it too. And I don't want people that are older who are reinventing themselves, because I didn't go back to college to finish my degrees until I was 50 years old.
Say that.
And it took me, to get to go through the bachelor's and get my AA, my bachelor's, my master's and everything, so it took me a minute, but I needed every one of these competencies.
And you use them all. You just have the labels for them.
Yes.
So it doesn't matter if you're older, if you're younger, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay, definitely
younger people are at-risk youth need to understand, baby, there's an answer for you. It ain't just drugs and in the street. Baby, we can take you into this next century, so that you can really enjoy the fruits of what you get naturally. You're a critical thinker when you're trying to think about the ones who are trying to, sell drugs, or who out there getting in trouble and trying to find themselves.
They still need creative thinking, critical thinking. That's right.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
They get shot, and they're not, they got it. They just need somebody to point it out and show them how to use it.
Right.
That's it.
Positively. Yeah.
I used to
That's the
work with
key.
drug addicts,
Right.
you know,
Some
That's
of the
the
earlier in
key.
my
best people
career.
that are dealing with the marijuana industry right now are old pushers, are old drug dealers. If they didn't get a record that puts them out of the game, they are making buku money right now because they needed all those skills.
Yes,
Well, you know, and
ma'am.
the thing too is that older people need it. I mean, all old people aren't trying to stay old. They want to try to, you know, be progressive. And these are the skills, old sisters and brothers, these old G's. If we want to stay up on what's going on and want to stay youth minded, you know, these are the skills that we need to look at, you know,
Yes,
develop.
absolutely.
What do we do to be more critical? What kinds of things can I do to enhance my skills to think more critically, to be more creative, or to work with teams? You know, how can I do that? And there are a whole lot of things that we could do when you think about it. But this is a skill set for everybody who plans on
I'd
continuing.
like to carry it back forward into the global community.
Go for it.
Okay, and so these are the additional competencies
Okay.
that the global community say is necessary. So when we think about cross-cultural communication across diverse ethnic knowledge and organized cultures, I have an interesting statistic for you that I know none of you know. I will be so surprised if you know this statistic. You ready?
Yes.
Last year, the middle of last year of 2020, ethnic children became the majority in this country.
Wow.
Didn't know
Whoa.
that, did you?
Wow.
No, I did not.
I knew it was
White
happening, but I
children
didn't know it was
became the
already here.
minority the middle of last year.
Wow.
Wow.
No, I didn't know that.
Yep. And so the cross-cultural communication becomes really, really, really important, right?
Yes.
Because capitalism requires sales.
Right.
I mean, that's the foundation of capitalism. And if you don't have anybody to sell something to, then your business goes out of business. It's real easy to see that, right? Yeah. So
How does
you
that show
can't,
up?
sorry, go ahead, Coach Mary.
Cross-cultural communication.
Yes.
How would that show up in your average household? Especially let's take, for instance, inner city household, you know, where mostly everybody in my neighborhood is my culture.
Okay.
And
that's not true at every neighborhood.
Right. So
Mary, before we get into that, let her go through these. And what we're going to do is to talk about some practical things that we can do for ourselves and for our children in, you know, in bringing these things about. But
okay, great. Yeah.
Okay,
great. That works.
Okay. Go ahead, Angela.
And so having an understanding of the cultural groups that are within the target market area, and not just who they are, but understanding the culture, understanding, you know, what the differences are, what the similarities are, and really what are the values within these cultures. Because the values are often very different, depending, especially when we're talking about immigrant communities, you see. And so it becomes very important to understand. If you don't understand, then it's going to be very difficult to do business with people because they know immediately that you don't understand, you don't value them. See? So that becomes very, very important. The biggest thing that I can suggest to anybody is to learn another language.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Spanish obviously is a big one, but hey, Arabic, Chinese, come on. We got a lot of people in this country that are speaking other languages, you know?
And a
And
lot of businesses
understanding
are
the
asking for
language and
bilingual.
understanding the culture is important. I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
No, I just said a lot of companies are asking for bilingual as well, depending on
Absolutely.
where you are.
Yep.
They understand that their existence, their very existence, is going to be determined by the ability of their employees to relate to appropriately to these diverse ethnic groups. White folks stopped having children. I hate to say it quite like that, but you know, you have more elderly white people in this country than any other group of whites in this country. And that's just the demographics speaking. That's just the demographics. So when we start talking about computing and ICT fluency, and the ICT is information and communication technology. You got to know how to use the electronics, the information, and the knowledge tools. You just have to. And it doesn't mean that you have to know all of the ins and the outs, right? Unless that's your job. But you do need to understand how these things work. Because if you don't understand, how are you going to be comfortable working with other people, the experts in the field? Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, does.
The career and learning self-reliance is the biggie. I mean, it is huge, 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 huge. It's managing change, lifelong learning, and career redefinition. And what this is all about is understanding that everything changes. Everything changes. And you have to be able to read what you see. So let me give you an example in healthcare, right? It used to be any job in healthcare was a foregone conclusion. You could, if you got hired in, you could retire from that place, right? But you know, it wasn't that long ago with nurse transcribers. They were in every hospital, they were in every doctor's office. Does anybody know what happened to change that?
No.
Digital.
No? Okay.
Digital.
What happened was in the hospitals, they started putting computers in patient rooms. Doctors started purchasing tablets for everyone in their practice. Now when we go see our doctor, they walk into the room with a tablet. And on that tablet, they are able to show us our x-rays, they can show us our blood work, they can put all of their notes right there as we're meeting with them, right? And they can send our prescriptions to the pharmacy of our choice. And the same thing is true in the hospital room. The doctor stands there at that computer and does all of that data entry. Now what does a nurse transcriber do? No job anymore.
Job obsolete.
Job obsolete. And so what we have to do is begin to see where the changes are coming. Now, if that person had been wise, when they saw those computers being installed in the patient rooms, they could have said, how are they going to use that? Who's going to be doing the data entry in that? When the tablets were being distributed to the doctors in the offices, they could have said, what are they going to be doing with that? And at that point, when they realized getting answers to those questions, right? At that point, they could say, okay, where else is there a niche for me here?
Wow.
Or do I need to be looking someplace else? That's self-reliance. That's career self-reliance. That says, I am responsible for my day and my future.
Wow.
Okay.
Didn't you also just walk through the other 4 competencies with that as well? Like, didn't you?
They all work together.
That person, she just critically thought, what are they doing with that? What's that, go, and then you create something and oh, wow. So you use these competencies to build you up to actually be able to, so you find the strength. It's almost like the snowball effect. You find the strength as you utilize each one of these competencies.
That's true. That is true.
So
Angie, it really is quite powerful.
Just to kind of summarize this portion up a little bit. It doesn't matter where you are, whether you're currently working, whether you're trying to move up somewhere, whether we have, your children, old people, it doesn't matter. If you plan to still be around and functioning on planet Earth, you need to know these skills.
Yes, I agree.
Skills.
You do. You really do. Really do.
Well, that brings us to the next point. Can you can we talk a little bit about practical things that we can do? First of all, as adults now, perhaps looking for jobs or trying to keep our jobs or planning for our future. What can we do now? What are some practical things that we can do in order to develop these skills?
Can I give you a question in the comments that can go along with that while she's answering that? Gabrielle says, any field recommendations? Young people are ready to work. Often employers still want to see proof of skills and have not updated their interviewing techniques. So how can you, use that and answer?
Okay, so let me take that one first. That is the new normal. You need to have very specific skills for whatever the work is that you choose to do. And you need to make sure that you have documentation that you have those skills. Okay.
What if you've learned these skills through just working with somebody else, or how could you should you I noticed that sometimes people offer certifications, and if you demonstrate a certain level of competencies, then you're much closer to getting that certification. Absolutely. As well. And absolutely. I know Audacity, I think it's called Audacity, they offer a lot of low cost and free certifications. If you go, I think it's audacity.com or .org. I didn't look, but I was just saying, so you could use some of your knowledge to gain these certifications.
And now you just tapped into a great example of creativity and innovation. You have a company that was created to provide the needed documentation for people who have skill sets that they've learned from somebody else and they're good at it, but they need the documentation in order to be able to work where they want to work. Boom.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
That is just so amazing to me.
And there are some online things that you can do in order.
Always. And don't forget, you've got continuing education organizations. All community colleges have continuing education.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And those are
in most colleges
low cost or no cost.
Mm-hmm.
But we are in a skill and information age.
And you have your community,
what you know.
You have your community recreational centers, your community centers and recreational centers that also offer, sometimes libraries will also offer some of these classes and certifications.
I know a lot of our senior centers offer, they offer access to computers and have people coming in doing classes on all kinds of things. And so these are some of the things that can be requested if they're not offered at your community center, whether it's a senior center or, cross age limits, because we have some of those too that service not only seniors, but young people too. So these are the things that we need, folks. If anybody happens to be listening, who's, a part of any of those organizations. So those are some of the practical things that we could. Anything else, Angie, that we might be able to do in order to prepare as adults?
I do we have time to talk about the critical thinking?
We
Yeah,
do.
sure.
Okay, then let me just, I wanted to pull this over because it's just a really nice, smooth way of looking at problems. So the first one is analysis. Why do you think that? What are the ideas? What are the arguments? What are the reasons? What are people claiming, right? Critical thinking. Critical thinking is about asking questions and really narrowing down to get good answers. What does this evidence imply? Did you question the evidence and consider alternatives? That's inference, okay? So it's not taking anything for granted. It's saying, what's really going on with this? And if this, then what, right? Explanation. How did you come to your conclusion? What are your facts? People will often make assertions that are just what they believe, but it's just a belief. There are no facts, there are no results, there's nothing that supports those assertions. It's simply a belief that maybe they got from somebody else. Evaluation. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, seniors especially.
Oh yeah. Oh, anybody.
Yeah, true.
Are the facts right? Is the claim right? Is the argument strong? Are there any holes in this? And in self-regulation, how good is the evidence? Are you monitoring and correcting yourself? So the point with that is to say, I've checked all of these things out, I'm moving right along, but am I just glossing over some things? Or am I really looking at this and determining if these assumptions are based on fact or if they're only assumptions? The interpretation, what does this mean? Does it fit any category? Is it significant? Can you explain it well? One of the other pieces that is implied in all of this is that there is an examination of the impact on people. If we think this is a good thing to do, what is the impact on people? Are there particular groups that will experience a negative impact more so than other groups? Okay. Is that making sense?
Yes.
Okay. So when we start looking at decisions that are made in communities for different kinds of sites, dump sites, right? Waste dump sites or energy buildings, right? Is there an opportunity to really look at that and see if there's a negative impact environmentally on the people who live in proximity to that proposed site? That's a question that needs to be asked. Is that making sense?
Yep.
So we don't ever want to lose the human component when we go through this process. It is a process, it is fluid, it goes backwards, it goes forward until you have a reasonable directive. You've examined this thing thoroughly, and now you know what you need to do. Okay? There are all different kinds of models out there, but I like this one just because it helps you going backwards and forwards, and you're really kind of examining things, closely. Did that make sense at all?
It does. Can you give us a copy of this?
And absolutely.
We'll post
I'll give you all three sides.
Yeah, we'll post this on the site.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
Thank you.
I like the circular portion of it because it never ends.
It never ends. It never ends. Because as soon as you find a flaw, you have to start going all the way back around until there are no more flaws. The people have been addressed. Everything makes perfect sense.
Wow.
So yes, I will definitely, make sure that you guys get this so you can post them and and make them available to folks. Yeah.
Well,
Sure.
Angie, the other thing that I wanted to talk about was what we might be able to do in preparing our children for 21st century. I've got a 6, almost 7-year-old grandson, and I need to know, I'm kind of co-parenting with him, for him. And so I need to know what kinds of things do you think are practical things we can do for our children we know that we have to try to make sure that they have these critical skills, but what are the things that we need to understand in developing these skills with children?
I think that there are two things. I think the first is to really encourage inquiring minds. We are very quick to shut children down, right? And that can limit a critical thinking process. So we really need to encourage them to ask questions and also to encourage them to seek out answers. Okay. And then talk about what they have learned so that this can be gone through again to make sure that they are following a model. Okay. So that's the first thing. The second thing I think is that we really need to look at children in terms of the things that they just naturally do very well.
Yes.
And really speak that into them.
Right.
Okay.
Because those are their gifts.
Those are their gifts. And we need to speak that into them, and we need to help them become emboldened, right? In embracing that. Linda, think about it. When I was a girl, what was the thing that they used to tease me? What they called me? You don't remember? Motor mouth.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you can't have a gift for gab, Angie. Yeah.
Motor mouth.
Motor mouth.
Motor mouth.
I love it.
Always.
Hey,
yeah.
Because I was, you live your life. You don't think about how you're doing things, right? And I ran into someone that I went to school with, and I ran into him at the college, and he was like, I always knew you were going to do some things. I said, why? How? He said, because you always had your head in a book. Okay. So I was a voracious reader, right? And I didn't mind sharing what I learned. Yeah.
And also we had talked the other day about, a lot of times we criticize these kids computers so much. But you and I were talking, Angie, about how it really is important for them to be on these computers.
It is. That's their world. That's their future.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they can learn another language, if they can learn two, scared of them. Scared of them. I'm serious. Because children learn their languages better when they're young. It's hard as an adult to learn these languages. Our tongues kind of trip over the words and the syllables, but children don't have that problem. They just don't. They learn them way easier. I think giving an appreciation and value to their culture, our culture, other people's culture, and that multiculturalism will just be a natural thing. I think those are the three keys. I really do. I really do.
Amazing. Well, ladies, we have 5 minutes left. So let's talk about any unfinished business, because this is amazing. I mean, we could go on and on. There's so much you could talk about this, right? It's just really, it's so critical. I mean, wow, thank you so much. I'm just,
Well,
I'm already thinking about my granddaughter, and and I'm thinking about my program, and I'm thinking about the people that I coach, and I'm thinking, wow,
it's all good.
This really needs to be thought about. We can't we can't put this on the back burner anymore. We need these competencies, and we need to incorporate them in our lives daily right now.
I really appreciate you asking me to be here to talk about these things, because I am very passionate about them. Yeah, I really am.
Our pleasure, Angie. And what do you want people to remember about these concepts and about what we're talking about today? What is the essence, the critical thing that you want them to remember from this program?
That they are resilient.
Explain that.
Resilience is the ability when you're knocked down to get back up.
Hello now.
Okay.
And so many of us have been knocked down multiple times, but we're still here. And we're still functioning. And that's the piece, I think. That, yes, this is new information, but we've been processing new information all of our lives, because if we didn't process them, then, we wouldn't be here, because change is all around us, right?
Okay.
So resilience, that because we have been through so much, that we learned how to do the things that we learned how to do in order to be able to survive. And we'll learn these things too.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. And we know about resilience, because that's been our been our call for the last year or so. For real.
For real.
In the last few minutes, I want to know about that sneak preview about the new edition. New edition.
Yes. So I'm doing the work to bring the new edition in. Hopefully again this summer, that will be coming out. And obviously I want to look at the careers. The 4th edition has the 100 top careers that includes the educational requirements and the salary range.
Oh, wow.
As well as any certifications that are needed and any experience that's needed. And so I need to go back and revisit that and update that, okay? Because that book was published in 2017. Okay. And because of the pandemic, things have changed. So I do need to go ahead and do that. The other thing that that new edition will have is a different way of wrapping around the LASSI, which is a standardized test assessment. It's called the Learning and Study Skills Inventory. And I use that as a pre and a post test for this book, for this curriculum. And each chapter focuses on one of the 10. Well, in the latest edition of the LASSI, it focuses on 3 specific content areas that all of the 10 scales fall in. And those 3 content areas are self-regulation, which is like time management and just managing yourself, right? Skill, and that is the learning how to learn, learning how to take tests, right? Because everybody's got to document that they know what they think they know. Wow. So those certifications, you got to be able to know how to prepare for a test, how to take it and do well in it. And will, which is the crux of who we are, right? The will is totally future oriented. If I don't believe I have a future, I have no will.
Oh, wow. So this next edition,
I'm excited.
this is great. So it's still because we're at the 4th edition now. It's still learning and earning in the 21st century. But
Yes,
this
we're
is
just
the
at the fifth
5th
edition.
edition. Okay, wow. And you have these. They're in universities all over, right?
No,
Well,
no, no.
I was going to ask you, who is the book primarily for? If I am an 18-year-old just out of school trying to figure it out, would you recommend that book for me, or would you recommend something else? Or suppose I'm a manager of a program, or I'm teaching high schools. Who is it for?
Okay. So because I worked for so many years in at Mott Community College, my students were middle high school students, high school students. They were returning adults. They were brand new entering freshman students. They were at-risk students. They were academically disadvantaged students. And so I wrote it for that broad population.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So anyone would be able to
Absolutely.
use it.
Absolutely. Now, it's better if an organization is doing this, right? Just because, pardon me?
Like a group, like what?
Like a group, like an agency or a school.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm working with some folks in Indiana, and we're looking at working with 2 school districts in Indianapolis this coming year. And we've been working with one already. And so the staff have been trained in how to do this curriculum. And gets remarkable results. It's not unusual for students to test below the 50th percentile, which means they have no skills in those 10 competency areas, okay, basically, on the pre-test. But on the post-test, the majority test above the 50th percentile in all scales. And then the last group that I ran the data on, in 7 scales, the majority of the students tested at the 75th percentile and above.
Wow. Wow.
Exactly.
Well, so it's really very helpful for those who are working with children or with programs that are whose goal is to develop and these kinds of skills with children or with young adults or whoever.
With whoever, that's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
Because all of the things that we talked about here, those are woven throughout that curriculum.
Right. Great.
So how does someone get to your book, and when will it be available? Did you say?
I'm hoping that the 5th edition will be available in June. That's my target.
And how would someone get information about that? Who's the publisher?
I'll let you. Kendall Hunt is the publisher.
Okay.
Kendall Hunt is the publisher, and they can certainly get in touch with them.
How can people who have other questions or want more information get in touch with you, Angie? What's the best way?
Send me an email. And
and you have
what?
I was going to say you have a business. Your
Email?
business.
Oh yeah, I have a yeah. And so my company is AMR Educational and Program Consultants LLC, and I work with organizations and schools and look at programs because I've got a lot of experience working with programs, with grant-funded programs, very successfully.
Do you want people to have your business email?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I certainly don't mind anyone reaching out to me.
Okay. Do you want to give that information? Okay, what is it?
It's DRANGELA as in red, EEV as in Victor, ES at mac.com.
Okay. Give it to us one more time. Make sure people have it.
Okay. DRANGELA ANGELAMREEV as in Victor, ES at mac.com.
Okay. All right. So there you have it, folks. Sister Mary, what's happening on the chat line over there? We have any more questions or anything?
No, but just I saw Regina joined in with us, and yeah, Gabrielle was here, Dr. Timothy was here. Let's see, Viola was here, and it kind of disappeared. I didn't see who all was here, but we thank everybody that joined us, and you who will be watching the replay of this. We hope that you get a lot of information and that you utilize some of this information. I'm going to turn that over to Lucinda and you, Linda. And Dr. Reeves, you are amazing. Before I go, you are amazing. Your information is just so critical, and we thank you so much. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for showing up and sharing this with us. So I'm turning it over to you.
Having me. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah. I definitely, it was very informative and very encouraging, engaging, and I know it's going to be successful.
Thank you.
So thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me, ladies.
Well, Dr. Angie, you know that you are my sister, and I'm just delighted to have you here and to be able to share this wonderful information and to help us to keep our people abreast as to what we need to do in order to function now and in the future. And it has been so enlightening. And I hope that those of you who have participated will pass the word on, what we have done here today. We will have the broadcast on our website For Our Success on Facebook here. And we hope that you will tap in and encourage others to do the same. But thank you, Dr. Angie, for being with us. And we wish you
having me.
Yes. And we hope that you have a good evening. Okay.
You as
Thank
well.
you. And also look for our next show. We will be following up on your goals for this quarter. It's the end of the quarter. So we want to see how that first quarter of your goals have gone. Are you still on track? Are you still moving forward? Did you shift your goals? So we're going to, come with your journal and let's talk about, maybe some things that you can do to get back on track if you've fallen off, or things you can continue to do to keep you motivated, so we can make sure that this year you reach those goals, smart goals. All right. We love you all.
All right. Good night, everybody. Good night.
Good night. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.